It was 3 weeks after we buried him. The house was still full of the smell of grief, the kind that settles into curtains and cushions and does not leave quickly, the kind that makes you walk slowly through your own rooms because every corner holds something you're not ready to look at directly. I was packing his side of the wardrobe, not because I was ready, because his sister had called that morning and said she was coming to collect his things, and something in the way she said it, too quickly, too certainly, like a woman who had already decided what belonged to her, made me get up from that bed and start packing before she arrived. His Bible was on the bedside table.
I'm packing his
He
shirts
carried it
now.
everywhere.
It's so
31
hard
years
to
of
fold
marriage,
them
and
knowing
that
he won't wear
Bible
'em
was
again.
always within reach.
I just don't know what to do
Dog-eared,
with this blue one.
spine-cracked, margins filled with his handwriting in blue ink. I had seen that book so many times. It had become part of the furniture of my life, part of the texture of him. I picked it up. I held it for a moment. And then a paper fell out from between the pages, folded twice, old fold lines like it had lived in that Bible for a long time. I opened it, I read it, and I sat down on the floor of my bedroom, right there between the wardrobe and the bed, and I wept in a way I had not wept even at the graveside. Not because he was gone, because of what the paper said. And because I understood in that moment that I had spent 31 years loving a man I did not fully know. My name is Mama Tunde. I am 58 years old. I live in Lagos, in Ikeja, in a house that is now too quiet. And this is the story of what I found in my husband's Bible and what it cost me to decide what to do with it. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is there, because I need company tonight. His name was Pastor Emmanuel Adeyinka Koka. Yes, pastor. He was an assistant pastor at our church in Ikeja for 18 years before he became the senior pastor in 2009. He was the kind of man that entire neighborhoods build their moral compass around. The one people called when a marriage was failing, when a child had gone astray, when a business deal needed prayer before signing. He was tall, soft-spoken. He had a particular way of listening that made you feel you were the only person in the world while he was looking at you. I fell in love with that quality before I fell in love with him. We married in 1992. We had 3 children, Tunde, Folake, and baby Seon, who came late and surprised us both. Emmanuel provided, Emmanuel led, Emmanuel prayed over this family every morning without fail, his big hand on the dining table, his eyes closed, his voice steady. He was sick for 8 months before he died. Cancer, the quiet kind that announces itself only when it has already decided the outcome. He died in February 2023 with his children around him and his Bible on the bedside table and my hand in his. I thought I knew everything about the man whose hand I was holding. I was wrong, and the Bible knew it. It was a letter, handwritten, his handwriting. I would know it among 1,000 others. Blue ink, the slightly forward-leaning script of a man who wrote quickly because his thoughts moved faster than his hand. It was dated August 2018, 4.5 years before he died, 1 year before his diagnosis. It was addressed to no one. It began simply, "If something happens to me before I find the courage to say this out loud, then this paper will have to say it for me." I will not read you every word. Some of it belongs only to me, but I will tell you what it contained. Emmanuel had a son. Not our son, not a son I knew about. A son born in 1999, the same year our last child, Seon, came, to a woman named Comfort who had been a member of our church from 1996 to 2001. The boy's name was David. He was 23 years old. He did not know his father was a pastor in Ikeja. He had been told his father was a man who had died before he was born. Comfort had left the church in 2001. I remembered her leaving, vaguely, the way you remember members who quietly stop attending. I had assumed she moved away or found another congregation. She had moved away to Ibadan with a pregnancy she carried alone and a secret she kept for 23 years. Emmanuel had known since 2005. When David was 6 years old, Comfort had found him. I don't know how, the letter did not say, and told him the truth. He had been sending money every year since, quietly, through a separate account I did not know existed. He had never met the boy in person. He had been trying to find the courage to tell me for 18 years. And now I was sitting on the floor of our bedroom, holding his handwriting, learning a marriage I thought I knew from the beginning. Tell me in the comments, if you found something like this after your partner was gone, what would you do first? I want real answers. I put the paper back in the Bible. I put the Bible in my bag. I made tea I did not drink. I sat at the kitchen table until the light changed. When Emmanuel's sister, Auntie Remy, arrived that afternoon with 2 of her daughters and a vehicle I had not been told about, large enough for furniture, I met her at the gate with a calmness I did not feel. She wanted his books, His pastoral robes, his certificates, the things that carried the shape of his importance, the artifacts of a man she intended to distribute among the family as memory and inheritance. She did not ask, she announced. "We have come for Emmanuel's things. It is better we sort it now before things get scattered." I looked at her. "Come inside," I said. "Let us talk first." She was not expecting that. Auntie Remy had always operated on the assumption that widows in grief are widows in weakness. She had been managing me with the careful authority of a woman who believes she is the senior person in any room she enters. We sat in the parlor. I did not offer tea. "Remy," I said, "did you know about Comfort?" The name landed on her face like a stone in water. 1 second of complete stillness. Then, "What Comfort?" But her eyes had already answered. She knew. Emmanuel's sister had known about the child since at least 2010. This I would later confirm. She had known and said nothing to me for 13 years. She had sat at my table, eaten my food, attended my children's graduations, held my hand at the hospital during Emmanuel's illness, and carried this secret the entire time. I stood up. "You can take his robes. Leave everything else. And Remy, when you get home, think carefully about what else you know that I do not, because I am going to find out all of it. And it will be better if it comes from you." She left without the robes. Subscribe to African Betrayal Stories right now because this story is only getting deeper from here. I found him in May 2023, 3 months after the burial, through the separate bank account. Barrister Funke, my lawyer, helped me trace the regular transfers. The receiving account was in Comfort's name in Ibadan. It took 2 more weeks to find a phone number. I called Comfort myself. When she picked on the 3rd ring, when I told her my name, she went silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. "Mama Tunde," she said finally. Her voice was quiet, tired in the way of a woman who has been waiting for a phone call for a long time and is not sure whether to be relieved or afraid that it has finally come. "I know everything," I said. "I found the letter." She exhaled. "I am sorry," she said. "I want you to know I never wanted to destroy your home. When I left the church, I left because I could not look at you every Sunday. You were always kind to me. You never knew. And I could not keep sitting in that same row." I believed her, not because it absolved anyone, but because the particular exhaustion in her voice was not the exhaustion of a woman who had won something. It was the exhaustion of a woman who had been carrying something heavy for a very long time and had never been allowed to put it down. "David," I said, "can I speak with him?" Another silence. "He doesn't know his father's name," she said. "I kept that from him. I told him his father died before he was born. I didn't want him growing up looking for a man who might not want to be found." "He needs to know," I said, "not because of property or inheritance, because he deserves the truth about where he came from, even if the truth is complicated." Comfort was quiet for a long moment. "Let me talk to him first," she said. "Give me 1 week." She called me back in 4 days. David agreed to meet. Tell me in the comments, would you have made that call, or would you have buried the letter with the secret? No judgment. I want honest answers. We met at a restaurant in Ibadan on a Saturday morning in June 2023. I brought my daughter, Folake, who knew everything by then. Comfort brought David. He walked in and I felt the air leave my body. He had Emmanuel's walk, the same slightly deliberate pace, the same way of entering a room like a man who has measured it before stepping into it. He was tall, Emmanuel's height exactly, with Comfort's complexion but his father's jaw. 23 years old, engineering student at the University of Ibadan. Serious eyes. He looked at me with those eyes across the restaurant and I saw something in them I recognized, the particular expression of a person trying to hold themselves together in a situation they did not fully choose. We sat. For the first few minutes, nobody said anything that mattered. We ordered drinks. Folake made small talk about the drive from Lagos. Then, David looked at me directly and said, "You didn't have to come. You didn't have to find us. Why did you?" I looked at this young man who had his father's jaw and his father's walk and had grown up without his father's name. "Because," I said, "your father spent 18 years trying to find the courage to do what was right. He ran out of time. I am not going to let him run out of time twice." David looked down at the table. His shoulders moved once. Folake reached across and put her hand on his arm. We sat in that restaurant for 3 hours. We talked about Emmanuel, the real Emmanuel, the full one, the complicated one. I showed David a photograph I had brought, his father at 40, standing in the church. David held that photograph for a long time without speaking. Before we left, he said, "My mother always told me my father was a good man who died too soon. She was right about the first part." I did not defend Emmanuel. He did not need my defense. He needed my honesty more. He was a good man, and he was also a man who made a mistake and spent the rest of his life being afraid of it. Both things are true. You are allowed to feel everything about that. I went home to Lagos that evening and sat in the bedroom. The Bible was still on the bedside table where I had returned it. I picked it up again. This time, I turned to the page where the letter had been kept. I looked at the passage it was marking, Psalms 32, verse 3. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. He had been reading that passage, living inside it for years. Silence had been eating him alive, and I had not known. I had slept beside a man who was groaning on the inside every day, and I had not heard it. That is not entirely my failure. He hid it carefully, and hiding it was his choice, his fear, his wound to carry. But I mourned it. I mourned the conversations we never had, the mornings he could have told me, and chose instead to open that Bible and press the letter deeper between the pages. I will not tell you I forgave him easily. Forgiveness at 58, after 31 years and a revelation like that, is not a single moment. It is a daily decision made in small increments, in the mornings when you wake up and choose how to carry the day. What I will tell you is this. I kept the letter. I did not burn it. I did not pretend it did not exist. I kept it because it was the most honest thing Emmanuel ever wrote to me. And a man who spent his life speaking in front of congregations finally told the truth in silence, in 2 pages of blue ink folded between the Psalms. David comes to Lagos twice a year now. He sits at my dining table, the same table Emmanuel prayed over every morning, and eats Folake's jollof rice and argues with Tunde about football the way brothers argue. My children did not find it easy, Tunde especially, but they are finding their way towards it the way people find their way towards difficult things, slowly, imperfectly, and with the knowledge that the alternative is a loneliness nobody chose. Auntie Remy has not been back to this house. The separate bank account Emmanuel maintained has been folded into a contribution I now make directly to David's final year engineering fees. Not because a court ordered it, not because anyone asked, because that young man did not choose any of this, and the least I can do with what Emmanuel left behind is make sure it reaches the person Emmanuel was too afraid to reach himself. Last month, David called me, not to arrange a visit, just to call. We talked for 40 minutes about nothing important, his project submission, a film he had watched, the Lagos traffic I had complained about. At the end of the call, he said, "Thank you, Mama Tunde, for everything." I held the phone for a moment after he hung up. Then I went to the bedside table. I picked up the Bible. I opened it to Psalms 32. Below verse 3, in Emmanuel's blue ink, he had underlined. Verse 5. Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. He had been always talking to God about it. He just never found the courage to talk to me. Maybe this is what I am doing now, finishing the conversation he started in the margins of a Bible that still smells like him. Maybe this story is the confession he never got to make out loud. I do not know. What I know is that silence costs more than the truth ever does. Always. Without exception. Every single time. If this story moved something in you, press the like button for every woman who opened something she was not prepared for and chose truth anyway. Subscribe to African Betrayal Stories so you never miss a story that matters. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? What time is it there? And what would you have done with that letter? I read every single comment. With love and everything it costs, Mama Tunde. 2 more stories are waiting for you on screen right now. There is so much more on this channel. Subscribe and know that this woman is grateful for every one of you who stayed until the end. See you in the next story.